The human explorer walked slowly through the barren alien wasteland, the orange sky glowing faintly with two suns. His boots crunched over the cracked ground, each step echoing in the empty space. He had been traveling alone for days, searching for rare alien minerals, but today felt different. A strange sound broke the silence, a soft cry, pitiful and filled with fear. It was not the wind, and it did not come from the rocks. It was alive, and it was calling for help. He froze, listening. Carefully, trying to find the direction of the sound, the cries grew louder as he moved forward, desperate and trembling. He noticed a faint glow coming from behind a cluster of jagged rocks. As he approached, he saw it a creature chained to a metallic post, its body trembling, eyes wide with terror. It looked like a beast at first, covered in thick, dark fur, with sharp claws and teeth glinting under the sunlight. But there was something different about it, something that made his heart beat faster. The creature tried to pull away, but the chains were strong. Digging into its skin, it growled softly, a warning and a plea at the same time. He stepped closer slowly, hands raised, showing he meant no harm. The human had faced dangerous creatures before, but something about this one felt unusual, almost intelligent. He whispered, "It's okay. I won't hurt you." But the creature did not understand his words. Instead, it stared at him, trembling, yet curious, as if testing him. He looked around, noticing alien traders in the distance, laughing and selling captured beasts. They had ignored the cries. Treating the creatures like objects, the explorer felt anger rise inside him, a mix of compassion and outrage. He knelt down near the chains, examining how they were locked. It would not be easy to free such a strong creature, but he could not leave it to suffer. With careful hands, he worked on the chains. Using tools he carried, the creature's eyes followed every move. Tense and alert, it growled louder now, claws scraping the ground, testing his patience. Suddenly, it lunged forward, trying to bite, and he stepped back quickly. His heart pounded. But he did not give up. He kept working, piece by piece. Minutes felt like hours as he struggled to unlock the heavy chains. Finally, with a loud click, the last chain fell off. The creature stepped back, cautious, yet free. For a moment, it just looked at him, its body shaking. And then it ran a few steps before stopping. It sniffed the air, and then turned slowly towards him, its eyes softening. He could see faint humanoid features under the thick fur. A small hint of something not entirely beast. His curiosity grew, and a shiver ran down his spine. The alien traders shouted in the distance, noticing the freed creature, but it did not run from them. Instead, it seemed to hesitate, watching the human, waiting for his next move. He extended his hand slowly, showing trust. "Come on, it's safe now," he whispered. The creature took a small step forward, then another, finally reaching him. Its fur began to shimmer faintly under the sunlight, strange patterns appearing on its skin. The human felt a mix of awe and fear, unsure what he had just freed. They stayed like that for a few moments, studying each other. He realized this was no ordinary beast. And perhaps it was more than just an animal. The cries it made earlier were not only for help, but also for connection, a silent plea for understanding. He smiled faintly. "We will figure this out together," he said, unsure if she could understand. The alien world seemed quieter now, the wind carrying away the distant shouts of the traders. Only the strange glow of the creature remained, a secret waiting to be discovered as the sun sank lower, casting long shadows across the wasteland. He decided to move, to take the creature to a safer place, away from hunters and traders. Each step was tense, each sound making both of them alert. But something inside him told him this was the beginning of something extraordinary, a bond that would change both their lives and perhaps reveal secrets the universe had kept hidden. And somewhere deep inside the creature, something stirred, a flicker of hope and trust. Waiting for the journey to continue, Asterisk the human moved cautiously across the alien wasteland, the strange creature following closely. Its steps were careful, almost graceful. Yet its claws left deep marks in the cracked ground. He noticed small changes in its body as they walked, subtle hints that it was not an ordinary beast. Its fur shimmered faintly in the dim light. As if alive, he could see glimpses of skin underneath, smooth and pale, unlike anything he had seen before. A strange curiosity stirred in him, and he wondered what this creature truly was. They reached a narrow canyon, walls towering above them, shadows stretching like fingers. The human knew this was the perfect place to hide for a while. Away from the hunters who were sure to follow, he sat on a rock and motioned for the creature. To come closer, it stepped forward hesitantly, ears twitching, eyes bright with intelligence. For a moment, it sat silently, watching him as if deciding whether to trust him completely. Then, something remarkable happened. Its body began to shift. Subtle at first, like a ripple in water, the thick fur started to recede, revealing smooth, pale skin underneath. Its eyes, once small and animal-like, grew larger and more expressive. Filled with emotion, its limbs seemed to change shape, becoming slender and delicate. Yet still strong, the human leaned back, heart pounding, unsure if he was seeing a trick of the light or a real transformation. The creature's voice, soft and musical, filled the canyon. It spoke in a language he could not understand. But the tone was gentle, almost pleading. He extended his hand slowly, and it touched his palm with surprising warmth. The human felt a shock, a connection that went beyond words. It was no longer a beast, but a young alien girl. Beautiful and fragile, yet with an aura of power. Her large eyes glowed faintly, and patterns on her skin shimmered like starlight. He stared in awe. Unable to speak, questions flooded his mind. But he knew they would have to wait. The girl moved closer, tilting her head curiously, studying him as if trying to understand his intentions. He could feel her fear, and he whispered, "I won't hurt you, I promise." She blinked slowly, as if testing him, then relaxed just a little. The canyon seemed quieter now, the wind carrying away all other sounds, leaving only them. Suddenly, a distant noise broke the silence. A low rumble, like the growl of a predator. Both of them tensed, alert to danger. He scanned the horizon and saw movement shapes approaching through the alien mist. The hunters were near, drawn by the strange energy radiating from her body. The girl's eyes widened in fear, and she instinctively stepped behind him. He felt a surge of protectiveness. Knowing he had to act fast, he grabbed her hand gently, guiding her deeper into the canyon. The shadows provided cover, but the path was treacherous, filled with sharp rocks and sudden drops. She followed without hesitation, her trust in him growing with each step. As they ran, he noticed her glowing patterns reacting to the approaching hunters. They pulsed faster, like a warning, a signal of her hidden power. He realized she was not only intelligent, but also had abilities he could not yet understand. They reached a small alcove hidden behind a fallen rock wall. The human helped her inside, and they both crouched in silence, listening. The sounds of the hunters grew closer, then faded as they passed by the canyon's entrance. She exhaled slowly, relief in her glowing eyes, and he patted her hand gently. "That was close," he said softly. Though she could not understand the words, she tilted her head, then pressed her hand to her chest. A small gesture that seemed to say, "Thank you." The human studied her face. Amazed at the mixture of vulnerability and strength, he realized this girl had been trapped, hunted, and forced to hide her true form all her life. And yet, she had survived, waiting for someone to help her. He felt a strange warmth in his chest, a sense of purpose and responsibility. He knew he could not leave her behind. Not now, not ever. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the canyon. The alien girl looked up at him, eyes reflecting the fading light. He smiled faintly. "We'll find a safe place. Don't worry," he whispered. Though she did not understand the words fully, she seemed to feel the meaning. And somewhere deep inside, a spark of trust and hope began to grow. The journey ahead would be dangerous, but together, they might just survive. And as they waited, in the alcove hidden from the world, the human knew this was only the beginning. The true mystery of her identity and power was yet to be revealed, and the bond between them was starting to take shape. Fragile, but unbreakable, a bond that could change the fate of both the human and the alien girl. The human and the alien girl stayed hidden in the narrow canyon. Shadows stretching around them, the air was tense. Each sound amplified in the stillness. He watched her carefully, noticing how she shifted slightly, ears twitching, eyes wide and alert. Her body had changed completely from the beast he first freed. Yet she still seemed wary of him. He reached slowly into his pack, pulling out a small container of food. "Eat," he said softly, placing it on the rock beside her. She stared at the food, sniffing the air cautiously. Then, with hesitant movements, she took a small piece with her delicate fingers. Her eyes lit up with curiosity and delight as she tasted it. He smiled faintly, realizing she was learning. Adapting to his ways, for the first time, there was a sense of calm between them. A small bridge of trust forming. He sat back on the rock, letting her explore the small space around them. Minutes passed, and the human tried to communicate, pointing to objects and making simple gestures. She copied him slowly, tilting her head, moving her hands awkwardly but carefully. He realized she was intelligent, capable of understanding more than he first imagined. Her glowing patterns flickered softly as she studied him, almost like a silent language. He felt a strange connection, a sense that she wanted to reach out but did not yet know how. The canyon, once frightening and empty, seemed warmer now. A small shelter from the dangers outside. Suddenly, the distant rumble of alien vehicles echoed through the rocks. They froze instantly, listening, hearts pounding, the girls glowing. Patterns brightened in alarm, a silent warning he could feel in his chest. He grabbed her hand gently, guiding her to the edge of the alcove. The hunters were still far, but they were closing in quickly. He could feel their energy, cold and threatening. Like shadows hunting light, the girl's body tensed. Yet she did not run. She stayed close to him. He realized she trusted him enough to face danger together. They moved carefully through narrow paths, keeping to the shadows, avoiding loose rocks that could betray their presence. She mimicked his steps, following precisely, her eyes constantly scanning the area. It was a silent dance, each learning the other's movements. Understanding without words, he felt proud of her, amazed at her courage and intelligence. As they stopped for a moment behind a large boulder, he glanced at her face. Her eyes reflected the fading sunlight, glowing faintly, filled with curiosity and cautious hope. He extended a hand again, letting her touch it. And she did so lightly. The warmth of her hand sent a shiver through him. A strange, comforting connection. He realized she was more than just a rescued creature. She was a friend, a companion, someone who had been lost and frightened. Now finding trust in him, a sudden crack echoed nearby, a branch snapping underfoot. Both of them froze, breathing shallow, hearts racing. The hunters were close, their silhouettes appearing briefly over the canyon ridges. The girl's glow flared brighter, and instinctively, she stepped in front of him. He could feel her protective energy, her body radiating strength despite her delicate appearance for the first time. He saw her not just as fragile, but as powerful. Capable of defending herself and him. They moved again, faster now. Navigating the canyon with cautious urgency, the human whispered reassurances. Almost there, stay close. Even though she could not understand words fully, she nodded slightly. Eyes wide and alert, following his lead perfectly. Their silent connection grew stronger with every step, every shared glance. It was as if they were forming a language of trust. Built on actions, not words, he felt a sense of wonder, realizing this bond was unique, rare, something worth protecting. At all costs, night fell and the canyon darkened, stars peeking through the alien sky. They finally reached a small clearing, safe for now, hidden from the hunters. The girl exhaled slowly, relief washing over her features. He offered his hand again, and she took it, letting him guide her to a spot to rest, for the first time. They sat together without fear, a fragile peace settling between them. He knew the road ahead would be dangerous. But he also knew they had found something invaluable: trust, companionship, and the first true connection. And as they sat under the alien stars, the human realized that freeing the creature had changed everything. Not only had he saved a life, but he had discovered a being of intelligence, courage, and beauty. Someone who would walk beside him through dangers and mysteries alike. The bond between them was growing, small but unbreakable. And somewhere deep in the girl's glowing eyes, a spark of hope and understanding reflected back at him, a promise that together they could face whatever the universe sent next. The night in the alien canyon was calm, yet the human could feel tension in the air. The alien girl sat beside him, her glowing patterns pulsing softly. Like tiny stars flickering on her skin, he watched her carefully, curiosity burning in his chest. There was something about her energy, something he could not explain. He reached out slowly. Letting his fingers hover near hers, she looked at him, eyes wide, and hesitated. Then, with a small nod, she touched his hand lightly, and a warm wave of energy passed through him. He gasped softly, startled. But she only stared, unafraid. It was a strange sensation, like warmth and power mixed together. He realized she had abilities far beyond what he had imagined. Not just strength or speed, but something more. Something connected to life itself. She blinked slowly, her glowing patterns shifting and moving in mesmerizing shapes. It was almost as if she could communicate with the energy around her. The human felt a shiver run down his spine. He had rescued a creature, yes, but now he was standing next to a being of incredible power. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled slightly, a low hum vibrating through the canyon. The girl stiffened, eyes widening as she looked around. Her glowing patterns pulsed faster, brighter, reacting to the disturbance. He stood quickly, scanning the dark canyon, trying to locate the source. Then he saw them strange, shadowy figures moving across the rocks. Fast and silent, the hunters had returned, more determined this time, drawn by the energy radiating from her body. The girl stepped in front of him, glowing patterns shining brightly. He realized she was ready to defend him, even though she looked small and fragile. Her voice echoed softly, a musical tone he could feel rather than hear. The shadows hesitated for a moment, sensing her energy. Then one of the hunters stepped forward, reaching for her, before he could react. The girl raised her hand, and a wave of light surged out. It was not just light, but something alive, pulsing with energy. The hunters froze, unable to move, their weapons shaking in their hands. The human stared in awe, realizing the extent of her secret power. It was more than strength. It was control over energy itself, capable of stopping enemies in their tracks. The girl's glow dimmed slightly as she exhaled. Lowering her hand, she looked at him, eyes filled with uncertainty and hope. He stepped closer, putting a hand on her shoulder gently. "You're stronger than I thought," he whispered, though she could not understand words fully. Her glowing patterns flickered softly, almost like a smile. They moved quietly through the canyon, the human guiding her to a safer path. Each step was cautious, yet he felt less fear knowing she could protect them both. As they walked, he studied her glowing patterns, noticing they shifted with her emotions. When she was scared, they flashed, brightly warning of danger. When she was calm, they shimmered softly. Like a gentle heartbeat, he realized that understanding her patterns could be the key to surviving together. Finally, they reached a hidden cavern tucked behind a waterfall of glowing liquid. The human helped her inside, careful not to slip on the slick surface. Inside, the walls glowed faintly, reflecting the girl's light. Creating a safe, magical space, she sat down, breathing heavily. And he knelt beside her, still amazed. "You have incredible power," he said softly, "but you need to trust me." She blinked, glowing patterns pulsing in response, and slowly extended her hand to him again. This time, the energy felt warmer, stronger. More connected, he felt a bond forming, not just of trust, but of shared strength. The human realized that freeing her had not only saved a life, but awakened something extraordinary. Her secret power was dangerous, yes, but it was also beautiful, full of life and hope. He wondered what she could do if they truly worked together. The universe seemed vast and dangerous, but with her by his side, he felt ready for anything. For the first time, he understood that this was more than a rescue. It was the start of a partnership, one that could face Hunter's secrets and challenges far beyond imagination. As they rested in the hidden cavern, the girl's glowing patterns pulsing softly. The human knew the journey was only beginning, and somewhere deep inside, he could sense her own realization that he was not just a human who freed her, but someone she could trust, someone who would stand with her against the universe itself. The hidden cavern was quiet, but the human could feel the danger drawing closer. The alien girl sat beside him, her glowing patterns pulsing softly, as if listening to the unseen world. He could sense it too. The hunters were relentless, tracking the energy she emitted. He stood, motioning for her to follow. She rose, eyes alert, her small frame glowing faintly in the dim light. They moved quickly through the narrow passageways of the canyon, careful not to make a sound. Outside, the alien mist was thicker now, swirling around jagged rocks like ghostly fingers. The human glanced behind, seeing dark shadows moving through the fog. The hunters were gaining ground, their shapes distorted by the swirling mist. The girl's glowing patterns flared brightly. Reacting to the threat, he reached for her hand. Squeezing gently, "We need to move faster," he whispered, though she did not understand the words fully. They climbed steep slopes, rocks cutting into their palms and knees. Her small hands were strong, gripping his arm as they navigated the treacherous path. He felt a strange mixture of fear and awe, fear for what the hunters might do, awe at her courage. Her glowing patterns seemed to guide them, illuminating safe steps in the darkness. He realized she was not just fleeing, she was leading them. With her instincts, there was a rhythm to her movements, almost like a dance between danger and safety. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the canyon. Closer than before, the hunters were splitting up, trying to flank them from both sides. The human glanced down at the girl, who stopped for a moment. Eyes narrowed, she raised her hand, glowing patterns expanding outward like a shield. The hunters hesitated, fear flickering across their forms as they felt her power. He realized that even on the run, she could protect them. He felt a surge of relief, but knew it could not last forever. They turned into a narrow gorge, walls rising sharply on both sides. The fog swirled thicker here, hiding them from view. But the human could hear footsteps behind, relentless and patient. The alien girl's glow brightened, illuminating the path ahead. He followed her lead, trusting her instincts completely. Each step was a gamble. One wrong move, and they could fall into the hunter's hands. A sudden shout pierced the mist, and one of the hunters appeared on a ridge above. The human froze, heart pounding. The girl did not panic. She raised her hand, and a wave of energy surged outward. The hunter staggered, thrown back by the force. He grabbed the girl's hand, pulling her forward, and they ran. Her glowing patterns pulsed faster, like a heartbeat racing in rhythm with their flight. The gorge twisted and turned, paths splitting in confusing directions. The human realized they could lose the hunters here if they chose wisely. He gestured, pointing to a narrow path that led upward. The girl understood instinctively. And they climbed, rocks scraping against their bodies. The hunters followed, relentless, but slower. Hindered by the treacherous terrain, the human glanced at the girl, noticing her determination, her eyes glowing with a fierce light. He realized she was not just running, she was fighting in her own way, protecting both of them. They reached a high ledge, overlooking the mist-filled canyon below. The human paused, breathing heavily, and the girl sat beside him, glowing softly. The hunters were still below, searching. Frustrated at losing their prey, the human looked at her, amazed at how much she had grown in courage and skill. Her glowing patterns flickered, reflecting relief, but also alertness. She had survived because she trusted him, because he had freed her, and he had survived because he trusted her guidance. Her instincts, her power. Night fell fully, stars twinkling. In the alien sky above, the canyon below was quiet for now. But he knew the hunters were still out there. Waiting, he put a hand on her shoulder, feeling the warmth of her small body. She looked at him, glowing softly, and for the first time, he felt they were more than just survivor and saved. They were partners bound by trust, courage, and a shared purpose. The road ahead would be dangerous, full of hunters, secrets, and challenges, but together, they could face anything the universe sent their way. As they rested on the high ledge, overlooking the misty canyon, the human realized that freeing her had changed his life forever. He had found not only a mysterious alien girl, but also a bond forged in danger, trust, and the secret power she carried. And somewhere deep inside, he knew that their journey was only beginning. With the alien girl by his side, he felt ready to confront any threat and whatever came next. They would face it together, unbroken and united. The high ledge was quiet, the mist curling around the rocks like slow-moving ghosts. The human sat beside the alien girl, both catching their breath after the relentless pursuit. He studied her, closely noticing the subtle shifts in her glowing patterns. There was intelligence there, yes, but also something deeper. Something he had not understood before. He reached out slowly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Her eyes met his. Reflecting faint light like twin stars, he felt a strange pull in his chest, a connection stronger than anything he had known. For a moment, the canyon seemed suspended in time, the world holding its breath. Then she moved, stepping a little away. Hesitant, he noticed a small device strapped to her arm, hidden beneath the glow of her skin. Curious, he asked, "What is that?" Though she could not understand his words fully, her glowing patterns flickered nervously, and she held up her arm as if to shield it. He realized it was not just a device, it was part of her power, something the hunters had been seeking all along, something that made her unique, valuable, and dangerous. Suddenly, a thought struck him, terrifying and exciting at the same time. What if her power was more than instinct, more than defense? What if she could control the energy around her, bend it to her will, even shape it into something unstoppable? He looked into her eyes, searching for answers. She hesitated, then slowly touched the device, and a soft hum filled the air. The glowing patterns on her skin shifted dramatically, forming intricate shapes that seemed almost alive. The human realized with awe that this was the core of her secret, the true source of her strength. Before he could process it fully, The distant sound of hunters reached them. The shadows had found a new path. Closing in quickly, the alien girl stood suddenly, her small frame glowing brighter. He noticed confidence now, not just instinct or fear. Her patterns swirled around her like ribbons of light, forming shapes he could not understand. Then, with a sudden motion, she released a pulse of energy into the canyon below. The hunters were thrown back violently, screaming, their weapons useless against her power. The human's heart raced, a mix of fear and awe. He realized she was not only powerful, she was extraordinary. A force that could change the balance of life around her. She looked at him, eyes wide, glowing patterns softening, as if to communicate reassurance. He reached out, holding her hand tightly, feeling the warmth and energy flowing between them. For the first time, he understood fully the alien girl was not just a creature to be saved. She was a being with secrets, a life of incredible potential, and now, reason to trust him completely. They moved again, faster this time. Not just running, but preparing. The human guided her through hidden paths, but he knew she could handle the dangers ahead. Her glowing patterns flared and shifted as they passed, like a silent map, showing safe and dangerous spots. The human marveled at her intelligence, her ability to survive and adapt. Every step revealed more of her secrets, yet also deepened their connection. He could feel her trust, her reliance on him, and he realized that he would protect her no matter the cost. Finally, they reached a hidden plateau overlooking the canyon. Below, the hunters were scattered, recovering from the blast of energy. The alien girl exhaled, glowing patterns softening as she sat down. He sat beside her, catching his breath, eyes fixed on the horizon. "You are incredible," he whispered. Though she could not understand, she tilted her head, glowing softly, as if she understood the meaning anyway, for the first time. The human felt a new kind of fear for what the universe might do now that her secret was revealed. But, alongside, it was hope. Hope that together they could face any challenge, overcome any danger, as the stars reflected in her glowing eyes. He realized the truth. She was more than a rescued alien girl, more than a secret power. She was a partner, a companion, a being who had chosen to trust him in a universe full of dangers. And as they rested on the plateau, hearts still racing from the pursuit, the human knew that the revelation of her power was only the beginning. The real journey, the one that would test courage, loyalty, and the bonds they had formed, was yet to come. But for the first time, he felt ready, knowing they had each other, and somewhere deep in her glowing patterns, a silent promise flickered, a promise of strength, trust, and an unbreakable bond. The human and the alien girl stood on the plateau, overlooking the mist-filled canyon below. The hunters had regrouped, their dark silhouettes moving with relentless intent. He could feel the tension in the air, thick and suffocating. The girl glowed softly beside him, her patterns flickering with anticipation and caution. He realized this was the moment that would decide everything. Their freedom, their trust, and the bond they had formed hung in the balance. The hunter's leader stepped forward, taller and more menacing than the rest. He raised a strange device, pointing it at the girl. A beam of dark energy shot out, cutting through the mist. The human reacted instantly, pushing the girl behind a jagged rock. Her patterns flared brightly, defensive and fierce. She stood tall despite her small frame, energy radiating from her in waves. It was clear she was ready to fight, but he knew they could not win in a straight battle. He whispered quickly, "We need a plan." Though she could not understand, she tilted her head, blinking, then touched the device on her arm. A wave of energy spread out, scanning the canyon below. He could see it reach the hunters, making them hesitate, confused and fearful. The girl's power was extraordinary, but reckless use could expose them. He took a deep breath, focusing, realizing that their survival depended on choice. not force. Suddenly, the leader shouted, and the hunters charged. The human grabbed her hand, and she squeezed back, glowing brighter. He realized she trusted him. Completely waiting for his decision, he pointed to a narrow path along the cliffs. One they had not used before. The girl understood immediately. Patterns flaring in agreement. Together, they sprinted toward the hidden path. The hunters in pursuit. Rocks crumbled beneath their feet, mist swirling around them like living spirits. The path narrowed dangerously, the edge falling away into the canyon below. The human kept his focus, guiding her carefully. Her small hands gripped his arm tightly. Energy pulsing through her patterns, the hunters were gaining. Their weapons firing energy bolts that missed by inches. He ducked, pulling her down. And they pressed against the cliff wall. Breathless, hearts pounding, he could feel the weight of the final choice before them. At the cliff's edge, the path split. One side leading to a safer plateau, the other to an unknown abyss. The human knew the hunters were too close. Too fast, he had to choose quickly. He looked at the girl, glowing softly beside him. For a moment, time seemed to slow, the wind carrying whispers of danger and hope. He realized that saving her meant more than survival, meant trust, courage, and sacrifice. He made the choice, pointing toward the safer plateau. The girl nodded, energy radiating with urgency. Together, they leaped, landing on the solid rock. Below, the hunters followed, but the alien girl released a surge of energy. A barrier of light shot up, cutting off the hunters' path. They stumbled, powerless. Their weapons useless against her final defense. The human and the girl stared, breathing heavily, realizing they had won the chase. Finally, they reached the plateau. Safe for now, the human looked at her, amazed at how small, yet powerful, she was. Her glowing patterns pulsed softly, calming, like a heartbeat after a storm. He knelt beside her, touching her hand gently. She tilted her head, eyes reflecting trust and relief. He realized the truth. They were no longer just survivor and saved. They were partners, bonded by the trials they had faced. And in that moment, he understood that freedom was more than escaping danger. It was the choice to trust, to protect, and to believe in one another. The alien girl leaned against him slightly, patterns flickering softly. He smiled, knowing they had made the right choice. For the first time, the human felt complete, not because he had saved a life, but because he had found someone who could match his courage and trust. And she had found someone who could see beyond fear, beyond danger, beyond appearances, together. They stood on the plateau, looking out at the vast canyon, the stars above shining like silent witnesses to their bond. Their courage and their victory. The universe was vast and dangerous, full of hunters, secrets, and unknown paths. But he knew that with her by his side, they could face anything. And somewhere deep in her glowing patterns, a silent promise flickered up. Promise of trust, unity, and unbreakable courage for the human and the alien girl. This was not the end, but the beginning. A new journey where danger would test them, but the bond they had formed would guide them. And as they moved forward, together, hearts steady, glowing patterns pulsing, they knew they would never be alone again.